So normally, the rabbit holes I normally fall down are on TikTok. And sometimes I take y'all with me and go down the rabbit holes, right? But today we're gonna fall down a rabbit hole on YouTube. This video is titled 5 Scary YouTube Rabbit Holes I Wish I Never Knew. Let's see.
With the sheer amount of content available on YouTube today, it can be remarkably easy to fall down a rabbit hole, a deep and often dark journey into one particular subject that can spark a great interest in those who choose to research it. Unsurprisingly, with the literal billions of YouTube videos available, and the fact that anybody can upload one, there are plenty of rabbit holes to venture down. Today we'll be taking you through some of the most disturbing, unsettling, and downright bizarre of these. So hit those lights, sit back, and let's get going. Only you. Now this is a strange one, and perhaps sums up the definition of rabbit hole better than any other on this list. Portishead are an English alternative band, pioneers in the trip-hop subgenre, whose music is characterized by dreamy trance-like beats and soft eerie vocals. Huge in the alternative music scene in the 1990s, one of their most popular tracks, Only You, has racked up almost 8 million views on YouTube. There is nothing outwardly bizarre about anything to do with this video, the band, or their YouTube channel. But dig a little deeper into the comments section of Only You's music video, and you might come across a user called Dwoot1589. They go by several names, the most recent of which are accounts posting under the names TracyPV5CL and TracySpam1, and only ever comment on this video in particular, hundreds upon hundreds of times, nearly every day, and have been doing so for several years, only taking occasional breaks. What's more is that the nature of the comments posted by this user are unsettling, to say the least. Sort by new comments and scroll down a little further, and you'll see the user having repetitive, one-sided conversations with themselves, detailing obscure and nonsensical information about their life, and occasionally becoming confrontational when people respond to them. The general consensus on this is that these accounts are not run by a bot. The comments are too coherent and personal. They almost never seem to be discussing the video or the song, and other YouTube users often chime in and comment on the situation, attempting to provoke a response from this mysterious user. Several theories have been suggested as to what these comments could be. Could it be somebody playing a prank, or someone who is potentially unstable? What do you think?
I keep saying, people like that, or we don't even know, but we're assuming that that's an actual person and not a bot. But people like that, bro, they need to be put on a list and heavily monitored. Because then at the end, we'll always go back and say, listen, see, this is where it started. And we see where it's starting.
Plasma Master Don. Donzel Edward Owens Jr., better known by his YouTube account name Plasma Master Don, is the centerpiece of one of the more sinister YouTube rabbit holes. An old man from Lisbon, Ohio, Owens first published his first YouTube channel on the 22nd of October 2006 under the name Plasma Dude 47. This would be breached and deleted by hackers, leading to Owens creating the Plasma Master Don channel in August of 2012, shortly before turning 65 years of age. He would steadily release a stream of videos across the 2010s, which would ultimately lead him to going viral with his covers of modern popular songs. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Owens would publish many of these videos, which simply featured him sitting in his room, taking singing requests from his viewers. Everything from The Weeknd and Frank Ocean to older hits from the Beatles and Queen. He would be perceived as a heartwarming, friendly character who would show up on people's YouTube feeds to put a smile on their faces throughout one of the most difficult times in modern social history. But all of this would come crashing down in late 2020. While Owens was publishing his videos, a dark story was unfolding behind the scenes. Some of those familiar with the Plasma Master Don channel would do some digging to find out about the man behind the music covers, and what they found, summarized perfectly in Nick Crowley's video on the subject, was shocking. Research into Donzel Edward Owens Jr. had revealed that the aging YouTuber was allegedly a Tier 1 sex offender, a child predator who had possibly been charged with inappropriately touching a young boy in August of 2019, a police report was filed concerning a man perfectly matching the name and description of Owens, and the two identities were eventually linked, confirming that Plasma Master Don, the beloved YouTuber making people happy throughout the midst of the pandemic, was in fact a predator hiding in plain sight. A few days after the allegations came to light, Owens was called out for his crimes in October of 2020, and his fanbase began to falter. He would release a statement saying that he intended to quit YouTube forever as a result of his ill health, and died shortly after at Salem Hospital, aged 73. His channel is still available on the platform, and his last video was USA Thanksgiving, November 26, 2020, which has gained almost 1 million views.
I never thought this conversation needed to be had. I never really thought about this. This never was even a thought in my mind. But when you think about that, bro, are people who are registered offenders, should they be allowed to have a YouTube page? Because think about who their audience could potentially be, who could be suggested their videos, then the comment section, the contact, how they could meet up, see. I run into people all the time. Take pictures, say what's up, have conversations, everything. I run into people all the time when I'm out, and bro, never thought about that. Maybe that's something they need to look into though, for real. That's scary.
Anton Lundin-Pettersson. On the 30th of January 2010, a young Swedish man by the name Anton Lundin-Pettersson would create a YouTube channel under the name Hip Hop Destroyer 666. While he would not create and upload a video himself, he would add several videos to playlists. These included music videos, gaming playthroughs, and sitting at the bottom, clips from the Star Wars movies. The channel still exists today, and while there may be nothing inherently disturbing about this channel alone, its backstory is perhaps one of the darkest in contemporary Swedish history. Anton Lundin-Pettersson, a 21-year-old, was heading down a dark path at the time these videos were organized into these playlists, one spearheaded by his radical political views. Anton would gradually begin to slide with the far right throughout the 2010s, and developed the belief that immigrants were causing problems for him and his country. Unable to sustain a stable job, Anton blamed this on immigrants from the Middle East, and began taking part of discussions on the far-right neo-Nazi forums online. He became a lonely, isolated individual whose life began to revolve around his hatred towards people of other ethnicities, going as far to support and like content from former Ku Klux Klan leader Johnny Lee Clary. All of this would lead London to commit an extreme act of terrorism on the 22nd of October 2015. Armed with a sword and dressed in a makeshift Darth Vader costume, he would storm the doors of Cronin School in Trollhättan, Sweden, and end the lives of 3 people, as well as severely injuring 1 more. Lavin Eskander, a 20-year-old teaching assistant, confronted Lundin-Pettersson when he entered the school in costume and was immediately stabbed by the attacker. He would then seek out people of colour in the hallways, attacking and killing Ahmed Hassan, a 15-year-old Somali student, as well as an unnamed Syrian student, who luckily survived the encounter. At this point, Anton entered a different part of the school and encountered people who believed his costume would be a Halloween prank. Some individuals even posed for a photo with him. It was later speculated by the chief of Trollhättan police that the killer only spared these students on account of them having white skin. Nazia Amzo, a teacher at the school, would confront Anton shortly after this, asking him to remove his mask. He was tragically stabbed by the attacker and died of his wounds 6 weeks later in hospital. Police were soon called to the scene at around 10:15 in the morning and shot Anton in the abdomen shortly after he attempted to charge at them. Anton's dead YouTube channel is an eerie sight today, even more so when you note the Star Wars playlist he has created at the bottom of the channel's page, given the fact he was dressed as Darth Vader. While the police were able to put a stop to his rampage, he unjustly took 3 lives that day. Timothy Birmingham. At a first glance at this channel, you'll most likely wonder why Timothy Birmingham made it on this list, and it's through no fault of his own that he has. Timothy, a friendly older gentleman, uploads multiple times a day in order to document his lifestyle, diet, hobbies and more. He is without a doubt one of the more wholesome YouTube accounts, and he still receives hundreds, if not thousands of views on his videos. Timothy's story does, however, have an extremely tragic segment, which sprung from a video he uploaded in early 2017, which has now since been deleted. The video, titled "She's Still Sleeping," was nothing out of the ordinary at first. Timothy, speaking to the camera in his usual fashion, began recording his vlog early in the morning. While Timothy was up and dressed, ready to start his day, his wife Penny remained in bed. In a light-hearted tone, Timothy could be seen telling the camera that his wife was sleeping in later than usual, to his surprise. Little did Timothy know at the time of recording and uploading the video, however, that Penny was not asleep. She had tragically passed away in the night. Timothy would take a brief break from uploading before addressing the situation in a vlog. He would later explain that he heard his wife make a coughing sound in her sleep, but assumed it was nothing out of the ordinary, and did not wake her up. It was only after he uploaded the "She's Still Sleeping" video, wondering why his wife had not woken up, that he discovered the upsetting truth. Following the incident, Timothy would produce a series of videos in honor of Penny, expressing his sadness and feelings of being lost without her. Timothy seems to be doing well today, thankfully, and is continuing to release videos on his self-titled channel. Several of the videos he published in the aftermath of losing Penny showcase his grieving process. His content is incredibly wholesome and is well worth checking out.
My mental would be shot, bro. Can you imagine? And that's gotta be a fear of some people, bro. To roll over and your significant other is not alive, but you went to bed and both of y'all were laughing or talking or whatever before you went to bed, and wake up the next morning and oh my, bro. Oh, I would need some time. My mental, especially if that person is your everything. Man, bro. Whew.
Marina Joyce. Sometimes a tragic event doesn't even have to occur for the internet to communally create a rabbit hole out of sheer mass hysteria, as was the case with Marina Joyce, a YouTuber famed for her quirky videos and friendly demeanor. From July 2016, Marina's viewers would begin to piece together a story based on seemingly strange occurrences they spotted in her videos. It started with Marina's mood and general presence in front of the camera. Awkward segments of dead air would begin to creep into her videos, and she would supposedly be seen glancing past the camera at a rate that was too frequent to be normal. This would progress when fresh dark bruises would appear on her arms, and a gun was spotted laid in the background of one of her makeup tutorial videos. From these clues, viewers began to piece together a theory that Marina was the victim of a kidnapping, in a case that saw the kidnapper supposedly force her to make her videos while in captivity. The strange occurrences did not stop there either. At one point in her uploads, Marina appeared to mouth the phrase "help me,"
and this is the dress that I'm wearing,
and someone else's hand was slightly entering the frame of the video. From here, the internet worked up a storm, and Marina's case quickly caught the attention of users across social media. Hashtag Save Marina Joyce would become the #1 trending topic online, and the theories began to run riot. Some speculated that Marina was involved in heavy substance abuse, while some took the kidnapping theory further, speculating that she may have been involved in a terrorist organization. Teenagers would take to the internet, posting that they began suffering anxiety attacks as a result of the theories surrounding Marina, and the whole story was thrown out of control. The story led to the police visiting Marina's home, who were surprised to find her safe and well, with nothing seemingly out of the ordinary. From here, things began to die down, and Marina's story fell into the depths of internet obscurity. That was until 2022, when she finally decided to address the situation. Marina would delete the videos causing concern to viewers, instead uploading one entitled "Saving Marina Joyce, My Story." In it, she explained that she was never missing, and that it was her parents that had called the police after the story became a sensation online. She told the camera that she was coming across weird and laggy in her older videos, as she spent a lot of time partying around this time, and that she essentially was not herself. She discussed dealing with intense mental health problems, stating her brain was dying, and she was also diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Marina Joyce continues to upload to this day, and appears to be faring much better now that the bizarre story of her theorized kidnapping has been addressed. So that's 5
I'm not gonna say, come on now. That feels like a person really leaning into something, really taking advantage of something. And if I'm wrong, I apologize, I'm sorry. But I'm just telling you what it makes me feel like. Like that's what was gaining traction. So a person leans into that. Okay, y'all think I'm being held against my, okay, and then I'm gonna put that on. I'm gonna stare off. I'm gonna say stuff like, man, do different things to lean into it. My parents called the police and had them come and check. It seemed like that little kid, remember that little kid that was acting out, and it really wasn't them. It was the people behind the scene making her do that. And all of the different things that was happening behind the scenes. That's what that feels like to me.
Disturbing and unsettling YouTube rabbit holes that you can feel free to venture down if you want. There are many more out there that we have not covered today, and there will be, without a doubt, many more that develop in the future. The internet is often a dark and disturbing place, and our thoughts are with anybody affected by the stories in these videos.
Just off Cuba's southern coast lies an island with a dark secret. Isla de la Juventud, once known for its pirates, parrots, and legendary treasures, now hides a hulking, decaying fortress. This is Presidio Modelo, Cuba's perfect prison turned perfect nightmare. Built to embody a radical vision of reform, Presidio Modelo became an architectural experiment in control, where the very walls conspired against the people they contained. 5 towering circular cell blocks loom over the island's landscape, remnants of a place designed to make prisoners believe they were always being watched. But what began as a symbol of progress quickly spiraled into something darker, a place of torment, overcrowding, and brutal political repression. Today, the prison is abandoned, its towers now rusted and crumbling, haunted by the ghosts of those who suffered within its walls. Yet this broken monument holds a powerful story, one that connects an English philosopher's dream of societal reform to the tragic history of Cuba's violent revolution. The perfect prison was never meant to exist, but it did. It started with a man named Jeremy Bentham and his vision for the Panopticon. Bentham's fevered dream. In 1785, English philosopher Jeremy Bentham visited Khrushchev in the Russian Empire to see his brother Samuel's factory. Samuel had designed an innovative solution for managing an unskilled workforce. He positioned his desk in the middle of the factory floor, observing workers constantly. This simple setup improved focus and reduced mistakes. The concept inspired Bentham, a utilitarian philosopher interested in reform. He began sketching plans for a new kind of prison, a circular structure with cells surrounding a central watchtower. From this watchtower, a few guards could observe every prisoner at any moment, without the prisoners knowing when they were being watched. This design, the Panopticon, promised cost savings by requiring fewer guards. But its real power lay in the psychological effect. Prisoners, always unsure if they were being observed, would self-regulate their behavior. Bentham believed this constant pressure would lead to moral reform, creating an all-seeing institution, as its Greek-derived name suggested. Despite his lobbying, the Panopticon never came to life. The British government balked at the costs, and critics viewed the design as oppressive. French philosopher Michel Foucault later condemned it as a tool of control rather than reform, likening it to, quote, a cruel, ingenious cage. Still, the Panopticon's influence spread. By the 19th century, prisons across the globe adopted its principles, and by the 20th, Cuban dictator Gerardo Machado revived the design, not for rehabilitation, but for domination. His prison, Presidio Modelo, would become infamous. The Presidio Modelo. Isla de la Juventud has long been a haven for outlaws. In the 17th and 18th centuries, pirate crews found refuge alongside flocks of parrots and American crocodiles, inspiring literary depictions in Treasure Island and Peter Pan. By 1926, it was called the Island of the Pines and had been under Cuban control for over 2 decades. This isolation made it ideal for a new high-security prison, a fact not lost on President Gerardo Machado. Elected in 1924, Machado initially enjoyed popularity, leading public works projects that modernized Cuba. But soon, his thirst for power grew, and facing overcrowded, inhumane prisons, he sought a bold solution: a prison built on Jeremy Bentham's Panopticon design. Construction of Presidio Modelo began in 1926 and took 5 years. In the meantime, Machado transformed from a beloved president to a widely resented dictator, and the newly christened Presidio Modelo would quickly fill with his political enemies.
See, I'm kind of torn with this idea because I get the inhumane part and everything like that and how it's not rehabilitation and different things like that. And then on the other side, if you listen to people talk about prisons today and how they are and how some of the guards have no control over the prisons and they do what they want and things that happen to people that go to prison, you're like, something needs to happen. Something like really, something needs to a change needs to be made because the way it is now, it just isn't working, bro. Fall down that rabbit hole of people talking about them coming home and what they experienced or what life was like in prison for them and what they saw and what happened to people and what continues to happen to people. You be listening to this and be like, well, at the same time, maybe we need to think about something maybe similar to this or something. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
The prison featured 5 separate circular cell blocks, each with its own central watchtower. Standing 5 stories tall, these buildings were designed to hold a maximum of 5,000 prisoners, though ideally only around 3,000 to ensure humane conditions. The central building housed a mess hall and a medical wing. Machado's plans included reformist ideals, mobile libraries, workshops to teach skills to well-behaved prisoners, and a fully functioning hospital wing for medical care. However, the full realization of this vision never materialized. The Great Depression crippled Cuba's economy, halting construction and forcing compromises. Despite the setbacks, the 5 towers were completed, and prisoners flooded into the cells. Descent into darkness. The prison's first warden, Pedro Castells, had little interest in Bentham's philosophies of moral reform. Rejecting progressive ideas, he embraced the cruelty endemic to colonial prison systems. Castells closed the tunnels, designed for easy movement between buildings, forcing prisoners to traverse the island's scorching sun for meals, medical care, and transfers. The envisioned mobile libraries and music programs were replaced with beatings and exploitation. Presidio Modelo became a crucible of suffering, transforming wayward men into hardened criminals and breeding grounds for rebellion. By 1953, the prison's infamy was well established. It was into this cauldron of despair that Fidel Castro, his brother Raul, and 24 of their comrades were cast after their failed assault on the Moncada barracks, a bold attempt to overthrow Fulgencio Batista, who had seized power in a coup. Castro and his men were housed in the hospital wing, spared the horrors of the general population. Here, they would focus on the revolutionary agenda. Quote, "What a fantastic school this is," Castro wrote. "From here I finish forging my vision of the world." Released in 1955, Castro would topple Batista by 1959. Yet, despite promises of liberation, conditions at Presidio Modelo worsened under his regime. His political enemies were thrown into the general population, exposed to rampant abuse and even murder. The poet Armando Valladares, imprisoned for offending Castro, smuggled out poems detailing these horrors, sparking international outcry. Riots and hunger strikes became frequent. By 1961, tensions erupted when Castro ordered the tunnels beneath the prison to be lined with TNT to prevent escapes during the Bay of Pigs invasion. The ensuing prisoner revolt was swiftly and violently suppressed, but dissent lingered. Growing international pressure over human rights abuses intensified, and by 1967, Castro ultimately ordered the closure of Presidio Modelo. The illusion. Today, Presidio Modelo is a decaying relic, its imposing towers now reduced to crumbling shells, hollow and abandoned. Visitors wander through the ghostly remnants of the cell blocks, where the air feels heavy with the memories of cruelty and despair. Jeremy Bentham's vision of a perfect prison, where the mere threat of surveillance could reshape human behavior, fell victim to the darker instincts of those in power. A design that was supposed to control and reform instead dehumanized and oppressed. Presidio Modelo did not create better men. It turned men into prisoners of fear, of violence, and of a system that cared little for their rehabilitation. The perfect prison, it turned out, was an illusion. When control is prioritized over humanity, the system collapses under the weight of its own cruelty. Presidio Modelo, once seen as a groundbreaking experiment, now lingers as a cautionary tale of the dangers of constant surveillance and unchecked power. The Panopticon model grants those in control the ability to either uplift or crush. Too often, it has been used for the latter. And yet, the legacy of the Panopticon endures. In today's world of surveillance cameras, data mining, and digital footprints, we are left to wonder, have we too become prisoners in a vast, invisible Panopticon? The perfect prison failed in Cuba, but the question remains, are we unknowingly building it again in the digital age?